Two balls and a strike to count on Taylor. Reyes fires, swing and a drive, deep left field. It's his way back. Walk the ball. Chris Taylor.
What's up, everyone? Welcome into DodgerHeads Live, presented by DodgerBlue.com. My name is Jeff Spiegel, joined tonight by Anthony Witrado, here to break down the Dodgers' 12-2 victory over the Toronto Blue Jays, their fifth win in a row. Anthony, good evening to you, sir. Happy Friday. Happy winning streak for the Dodgers.
Yeah, I was beginning to think it was us because the last couple Fridays we were coming on after losses, I think, and we get to come into a 5-game winning streak now. I talked on one of the first shows I was on about not really owning any Dodgers gear except for hats. So I broke down and I got me the little thin kind of warm-up hoodies they got.
Love it.
So great time to break it out, right?
Exactly. And look, there's a lot of storylines we'll get to. Ohtani in Toronto, among them, the Dodgers offense, 19 hits tonight. Everybody who started this game for the Dodgers had a hit. Only a handful of guys who weren't able to get hits. Gavin Stone, of course, 7 innings, 2 hit, 1 earned run for him, a guy who has, I would say, seemingly, he has improved, it feels like, consistently as the season has gone on. We'll talk Max Muncy as a guy I want to talk on just because I feel like he's heating up. Brusdar Graterol, we've got an injury update, and of course, we'll get to some questions and answers at the end of this one as well. But Anthony, let's start with the offense, because that's kind of the headline here. 12 runs, 19 hits, and it all gets started with the man who all eyes were focused on in Toronto, Shohei Ohtani, the once reported Blue Jay Shohei Ohtani, who never was on a plane until yesterday, to Toronto. We expected boos. He gets booed, and his response, launching a home run into right field.
Yeah, I thought so. The stories leading into this series by a couple of the Dodgers beat guys were interesting because they asked him about it, like, sort of what were his thoughts on that whole flight tracker thing. And he was like, I was watching it like you guys, like I wanted to know where this was going to go because I knew I wasn't on the flight and I knew I wasn't going to Toronto. So I was curious to see what would happen next. So that was a nice little nugget there. But I'll be honest, I was a little surprised at the booing when he came up the first time. I mean, I didn't expect them to give him a standing O or anything like that, right? But I didn't expect this guy to boo them. He's never been in their division. He was never their rival. They're booing him because a reporter got a report wrong.
Yeah.
And so they're booing him. I didn't understand that. Fans will be fans, though. And I thought it was perfect. It was poetic justice, right? That he just bangs a hanger over the wall and just stop. That's kind of what that was. Just knock it off.
Totally.
That had to feel good for him too, because I'm sure this whole thing was a little bit of a fiasco for him. Plus, what he's gone through since the season has started. So to have a moment like that and to just kind of like, be able to do something in that way, in that environment, that has to feel good for him.
Yeah, I'm with you. Daniel and I, when we were talking about the game and kind of joking about Shohei Ohtani landed in Toronto for real this time, we were talking about, hey, the expectation he's going to get booed. And it's the classic, it wasn't Ohtani's fault that Blue Jays fans were hurt. They were hurt, right? We all would have been. If that report had been he's coming to the Dodgers for 12 hours and then we find out after the fact that he's not, and we had all gotten our hopes up and started to celebrate, I empathize with the Blue Jays fans. And look, the only way that they can sort of vent that pain, that hurt, that disappointment is towards Ohtani, even though he had nothing to do with it. And
Right.
Yes, the poetic justice of the whole thing, though, with Ohtani launching a home run 360 feet into right field to get this game off to a good start was beautiful, was hilarious. You texted me, said, well, I guess we know what we're talking about to start this show. And sure enough, here we are talking Ohtani in the opener. Not the hardest hit ball. Ohtani's had 96 mile an hour off the bat, 360 feet, only a home run, 11 out of 30. But guess what? It was a home run in the park that counted tonight. And from there, Anthony, it was completely downhill. The Dodgers looked like they were going to add on to this one in the second inning when Gavin Lux strikes out with a couple runners on. But the third inning, they did not miss their opportunity. Single walk, single homer, single strikeout, flyout, single walk, ground out, all in the third inning. And by the time that one ended, it was 7-0. And this one was completely put to bed. And that was the beauty. I just read, of course, Muncy's got a home run in the middle, but single walk, single, 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 walk. I mean, this is small ball. This is patching it together. Not that we expect this or need this from the Dodgers, but the fact that, even if the long ball isn't there, this lineup can be deep. This lineup can sort of just pile on to teams. And before the Blue Jays and Chris Bassett even knew what hit him, it was 7-0 in the third inning.
Yeah. I don't know if I would necessarily call it small ball. I mean, they were hitting, 102-mile-an-hour singles or whatever, but
yeah, small ball in the box score.
That's Dodger small ball, right? Like, because they don't bunt anymore, so that's Dodger small ball. But what was most impressive to me during that inning and kind of throughout the whole game was the quality of the at bats, even for some of the guys who were making outs. Outman, Lux, Teo. There were guys who would just put together really solid at bats. And I think one of the bigger problems with this lineup when it was struggling 5 games ago was you'd have some really good at bats from the first 4, right? And then it was just sort of sprinkled in, hit and miss about who might have a decent at bat after that. And some guys were just having, we've talked before about uncompetitive at bats. Yeah. Guys were having those. Today, it seemed like everybody was seeing the ball well, fouling tough pitches off, making hard outs, or, even if it was a strikeout or something like that. It was a battle of an at bat. That was really impressive. That was really promising. Double-digit runs scored in 3 of these 5 games that they've won. And this shows how this lineup, like you said, can just kind of snowball. I was texting my dad too, aside from you, and I said, this is the kind of damage they can do to a pitcher. Like, you blink and you are in a world of hurt with this lineup. It is so good and it's so deep. Unfortunately, Chris Taylor didn't get to join in on the party. Okay. That's really got to suck for him. But the rest of the lineup was on point. They looked really good. I thought that they're not going to score 11 runs every night, obviously, but they are capable of putting together those kinds of plate appearances all the time.
Yeah, and right in the middle of it is a guy named Max Muncy, who, look, we know this is a polarizing guy among Dodger fans. Speaking of, almost 1,150 people in here live with us on Facebook, on YouTube, on Twitter. Thank you for joining us here to celebrate a 5-game win streak. And look, a little bit of an early 7:10 Friday night start, none of these 9:45, 10 p.m. ones. So we appreciate you being with us. But Muncy hits that home run. And don't worry, we're going to get to Will Smith, okay? Back-to-back 4-hit games. We're going to get there. If anybody's been on this show and followed us, I will not miss the opportunity to gush about Will Smith. But Muncy, I feel like, is a guy who has been polarizing at times. And people don't love the batting average. They don't love the 3 true outcomes kind of a thing. But all of a sudden, I blink and I look down at this guy's stat line for the season. And we know the defense. I'm talking offense here, okay? He goes 3 for 6 tonight. This is on the heels of a couple hits the other night, and he's hitting .258 with a .361 on base and a slugging percentage of .500. I mean, this is a guy who's at an .850 OPS, and he's hitting 6th in the 5th or 6th in the Dodgers lineup. I feel like to see him crush that ball, and you want to talk exit velocity, you mentioned the exit velocity of that inning. 107.6 miles an hour for Muncy. Absolute moonshot. 42-degree launch angle. Moonshot for 366 feet. But just, he's the type of guy right in the middle of that lineup where if Muncy gets going and he can get back to 35, 36 home run Max Muncy with an on-base percentage in the upper 300s, a slugging percentage hanging around 500, he's the guy that doesn't get talked about, who is an all-star caliber, incredible hitter that we know the struggles. We know the batting average has been low, but it's above .250 right now. And I just love to see a guy like that get a big hit in a spot like tonight.
It feels like he's the kind of guy with every season. It's sort of been like that for him, with the exception of last year, I think, with the batting average and stuff like that. But where the lineup is going along, and like you said, you look down and you check Muncy's line and you go, oh my, this guy's so good. And, we just kind of overlook him. It seems like he's sort of been that guy the whole time that he's been with the Dodgers. He's able to get walks. His on-base percentage is always high.
Yeah.
Obviously, the power plays, and he's the kind of guy that really connects this lineup. I think coming into this season, one of the feelings I had was that Max Muncy, Teoscar Hernandez, and Gavin Lux. Gavin Lux, because we kind of knew he was going to be hitting at the bottom of that order. Now, that's a little bit in flux with Gavin, but Teo and Max are connecting kinds of pieces to this lineup where if they're hitting well or giving you good at bats at the very least, this lineup becomes devastating. Now today is a little bit of you get the entire rush and everybody was seeing it well and hitting it well. But on a normal day-to-day basis over the course of the summer, you get those two guys to produce, and all of a sudden those top four guys, the guys a little bit behind those two also, really start to seek out advantages when they're being pitched to, because there's no break with Max, there's no break with Teo. I really feel like those guys are connector pieces. If anybody watches basketball, we talk about those kinds of role players who do that. These are the kinds of guys I think the Dodgers have in this lineup who fill sort of similar roles where, okay, you know what? Max, Will Smith is hot right now. Let's nibble a little bit. You can't do that now because Muncy's behind him or Teo is hitting behind him. And when they're putting the barrel on the ball, they hit the ball hard and they do damage.
Yeah. No, I'm with you. And even just the at-bat quality, I think that's pitchers don't get off days. They talk about how pitchers, it's not strictly about pitch count, but it's kind of the stress of those pitches. 75 stressful pitches can wear down an arm a lot quicker than 100, sort of carefree pitches can. And so when you're facing a lineup like the Dodgers, you kind of want to pop your head up and see, okay, good. We're at the 6th spot in the lineup. We have a few that we can kind of, catch our breath, pace ourselves a little bit. But even a guy like Gavin Lux, who has struggled, of course, he gets 2 hits tonight, but even him struggling, he comes up with a couple runners on base. It's like a 7-8 pitch at bat with 2 runners on. He ends up striking out. You'd like to see him swing the bat there, but I think
that's what I was talking about. Yeah, exactly. Even if they weren't hitting the ball hard, the at bat was good, and you like to see that, especially from guys who had been struggling.
Totally. Absolutely. So lengthening the lineup for sure. And again, the key to these huge offensive production nights is you look down towards the bottom of the lineup. James Outman 1 for 4, but does walk. So he reaches base 2 out of 5 at bats. Andy Pages 2 for 4. Gavin Lux 2 for 5. I mean, that's 6 times reached in the bottom 3. Teoscar Hernandez 2 for 3. So the bottom 4 guys all reached 2 times tonight. You're going to score a lot of runs when that happens. We do have a super chat here, so let's shift that way. Larry, thank you so much for the $9.99 super chat. As always, folks, if you want to leave us a super chat, we appreciate the support first and foremost. But second, we'll stop what we're talking about and get to your question. Larry wants to know, on Tuesday, Mark Pryor visited the mound in the 8th. The infield gathered around with the exception of Freddie Freeman, who stayed at first chatting and laughing with the Nationals base runner. Is Freddie Freeman too friendly with the opposition? We know he's friendly. We see the smiles. We see the high fives. Anthony, what's your take on this? How does this play for a guy like Freeman who, we know it's a competition. We know it's a game, but there's a human element to it as well. And so what do you make of Freeman's relationship with seemingly every guy who ever steps foot on his first base bat?
Yeah, he's going to have a big dinner party at the end of each week, right?
Yeah.
No, it's fine. I think it's fine. I covered when I was a beat writer, Prince Fielder did the same kind of thing. He might not look like it because he got the neck tattoos and he had all that stuff going, right? And he just kind of had the growl and all that. But he was the same kind of way. And Brewers fans would kind of, when he was slumping or the team was losing, they'd be pissed. And, but if things are going well, obviously they didn't care, but he was the same kind of guy. I don't think it's an issue. And him not joining that conference on the mound, Freddie's a veteran, man. Like, he knows what's about to be said. And if there's some sort of play on, it's going to be relayed to him by Mookie anyway.
Yeah.
So, I don't see it as an issue. The only thing that I've really had, I guess, sort of like had to do a double take at with Freddie was last year with the whole Braves homecoming stuff and how that all played out. And I thought, and obviously the clubhouse had a little bit of a, it rubbed some guys the wrong way. You understand why Freddie kind of, had that sort of feeling about it.
Yeah.
But to keep going on about it and to keep acknowledging it throughout that first series back in Atlanta, and then for Kershaw to come out and say, hey, we're your teammates now, essentially, I thought was perfect tone. and it snapped Freddie's head back, I think, and he realized, okay, I'm part of something special here also. It's time to be a Dodger through and through now.
Yeah.
And I think he really has. I think he's really embraced it. I think the fans have embraced him. His relationship with Mookie has done a ton for I think what that clubhouse is now, especially with the guy like Justin Turner gone and Kershaw being out. So no, I don't have a problem with it. I think it's fine. I think a lot more guys do it than we probably realize. Not a problem.
Yeah. I'm with you. Look, there's different guys and different personality types in Major League Baseball, and we know this is Freddie's MO. He's a pretty normal dude who's very even-keeled, very kind, very joyful, and that's going to rub off. I mean, you can imagine playing the game for as long as he has and all the places being in Atlanta and then LA and not really missing games. He's met all these guys. He's interacted with so many of them. The first baseman gets to see every guy, whoever stands on first. And not only that, if you're holding them on base or something, you're standing very, very close to them. And so no issue with this for me. I think it's just who Freddie Freeman is. And as long as he keeps hitting and keeps producing and playing good defense over at first base, then I think things will be fine for Freddie Freeman. Let's shift real quick, though, and talk about the guy right behind Freddie Freeman in the lineup. Will Smith, 4 for 5, 3 runs, 3 RBIs, does get the homer, has a double as well. He was a triple Cy of the cycle. This guy's on fire. He's hitting 376. Only Mookie Betts with the higher batting average in the Dodgers lineup. 413 on base percentage. That's 4th behind the top 3 guys in the order. The top 3 guys in the Dodgers order, the top 4 guys in the Dodgers order, all have an on base percentage of 413 or higher. That is absurd. That means they're reaching base more than every 2 out of every 5 at bats for those 4 guys. Incredible stuff. And then Will Smith, a 527 slugging percentage, trailing, I guess, Andy Pages, technically. Ohtani and Betts, first and foremost, though. But back-to-back 4-hit games for Will Smith here. Look, he's incredible. He was 4 for 6 on Wednesday. The guy's dialed in, and he's been dialed in since the spring. He has been Mr. Consistency, and I don't know. I have nothing else to say. He's one of, if not the best offensive catcher in Major League Baseball. And if he's not, it's because the catcher position at the top is incredibly, incredibly talented at the moment.
Yeah. For my money, he is the top of that list in terms of offensive catchers. I thought he's gotten snubbed from some all-star teams earlier in his career. I don't think that's going to happen ever again. I think people recognize what he is, especially now with the contract too, because he's living up to the expectations of that deal. Yeah. We see the numbers, right? We understand what they are and how good he is, and we can put that in context. I think if we're really gonna if we want to analyze what his offense is, I think one way to do that is to look at his swing. His swing mechanics have simplified over the years to the point where, like, when Albert Pujols was in his prime, it was that just sort of that kind of squash the bug with the front foot and fire the hips, right? Remember that? The really short swing. For as big as Albert was, he got a ton of plate coverage, and the swing was so short. Will Smith he's not Albert Pujols, and the swing is not the same, except in the fact that it's incredibly compact. So what that does for a guy is it simplifies the mechanics, like I had said. So you getting out of whack, like we saw a lot of this with Cody Bellinger. We'd see it with JT, from time to time with that leg kick and all that. It's very easy to get out of whack for some of those guys, and it's hard to get back to the good. For Will Smith, with what his swing mechanics are now, that package is really easy to maintain. It's really low maintenance. And when he does happen to kind of get off track a little bit off the rails, it's really easy to get back to. And I think that's why you don't see him with really prolonged slumps. And he's able to maintain, we call them hot streaks, but it's becoming just who he is, where he's able to maintain that level for longer than just, okay, hey, it's been a 7-game stretch or something like that. So the consistency with him, I think, is going to be incredible. I think going forward, probably all the more reason why they're going to have to move him off of the catcher position, probably sooner rather than later, over the course of the life of that contract.
Yeah.
But like I said, you can see the numbers, and everybody can go on FanGraphs or wherever and look at what those are. But there's a reason why he's been so good and why he's getting better.
Yeah, and people pointing out, you mentioned Albert Pujols. Will Smith has openly said that was his guy growing up. So I'm sure he loves the comparison to the consistency and knowing that his favorite player is a guy that people are now comparing sort of his consistency to. Francisco with the super chat asking, do you think the Dodgers trade for a starter? We can't rely on the injured pitchers coming back at 100% or at all. So an interesting question, especially tonight. We haven't gotten a chance to talk about Gavin Stone. Gavin Stone tonight, 7 innings, 2 hits, 1 earned, 2 walks, 2 strikeouts. We'll dive deep into that in a minute. Let's start with Glasnow has been awesome. Yamamoto has been awesome. You've got 2 guys at the top that you feel as good, I would say, as I did at least at the beginning of this season and the performance they have. So the questions then start at number 3. Bobby Miller, up and down, I would say, prior to going on the injured list.
Yeah.
You've got James Paxton, who I think, you maybe hoped he was going to be more of a number 4 than a number 5. He looks like a number 5. You've got Gavin Stone, who has had a couple good starts, a couple bad starts, Landon Knack. And then, of course, the injured guys are sort of the bigger question here. Emmett Sheehan, do they get him back at any point? What does Clayton Kershaw look like? Walker Buehler, probably expected back in the next week or two. Dustin May expected back at some point. Not sure if it's going to be as a starter or a reliever. And so with all of the pieces they have, you've got 2 guys at the top you feel good about. And then you've got 5 or 6 injured guys that you almost sort of need to hope that 2 of them pan out. To Francisco's question, is this story going to end with a guy who's not currently on the Dodgers in a playoff rotation after they make a trade?
It could, but excuse me, we're a long way off from that, I think, because they're going to see how this hand that they have plays out for a while. Buehler, Kershaw, May, they're going to figure out where Miller is, which that doesn't sound promising. That scares me a little bit. And you talked about him being up and down, and that obviously had something to do with it. The Sheehan one, I said before, as soon as it happened, this doesn't feel right. And, we don't have to get into the Dodgers injury reports, but it just didn't feel like things were going to be quick for him.
Yeah.
Obviously they're not going to be. So I think they're going to see how this plays out, especially with Bobby Miller, and see if he's able to come back. And then they're going to look at what Buehler looks like. Look, if Buehler comes back, and I know he hasn't looked great in his rehab assignments, but don't take a whole lot of stock in those at the moment. Let's kind of see what he does when he does get back up. If he turns out to be, maybe he doesn't have to be exactly what he was before he got hurt, but he has to, building toward that and being good.
Yeah.
If you can go Glasnow, Yamamoto, and Buehler like that and line those guys up, and then you still have Kershaw coming, and they're going to be really slow with Kershaw. So by the time they get him back, not only should he be fresh, but I assume that he's going to be pretty sharp.
Yeah.
That's pretty good. I mean, in all honesty, that's kind of devastating if those guys can be healthy and be at those levels. So I think a trade's on, they're not blind to it. They're looking and they're keeping tabs. They're doing their due diligence. I don't think anything's imminent at the moment. They're going to see how this all plays out first.
I agree with the second part of this chat. We can't rely on the injured pitchers coming back at 100% or at all. The beauty of the Dodgers is you don't need all 6 of them to come back. You need 2. Bobby Miller, Emmett Sheehan, Clayton Kershaw, Walker Buehler, Dustin May. Of those 5, can I get 2 guys who are competent? I don't need all 5 of them. I just need a couple of them 4 or 5 months from now to be ready to go, to be geared up, and to be able to give me depth in order to feel good about this. And by the way, I think it is worth talking about the guy who was on the mound, Gavin Stone, because look, Landon Knack, we know what the expectations are. Landon Knack's he'll be a nice piece. He might be better than a lot of number 4, number 5 starters around the league right now. For a team with the aspirations of the Dodgers, I'm not positive that this is going to be the year that he's going to sort of be able to carry a load. But I keep reminding people every time. Gavin Stone was the first rookie called up last year. He was ahead of Bobby Miller. He was ahead of Emmett Sheehan, not necessarily from a ceiling perspective, but he was a top 50 prospect in Major League Baseball that the Dodgers believed was Major League ready 15 months ago. And it just didn't work out. We've heard since then there was an injury, some mechanics tweaks, etc. Well, Gavin Stone tonight, 7 innings, 2 hits, 1 earned, 2 walks, 2 strikeouts. And I'll temper expectations a bit because when you dig into the numbers, he probably was a little bit fortunate tonight when you're looking at some swing and miss type stuff. Just 4 whiffs on 42 swings. That's not very good. Just 2 strikeouts. Again, that kind of lends itself to this isn't a sustainable way to get
Sure.
yourself through a game. And yet the results are what they are. 7 innings, 2 hits, and just 1 earned run. 2 starts ago, it was 6 2/3, 5 hits, 2 earned runs, 1 walk, 4 strikeouts. And so from a guy like Stone, we're now 5 starts in. He had 2 starts that lasted less than 4 innings. The other 3 starts have all been positive. Even his first start against the Cardinals starts off poorly, ends up rebounding and getting things together back on track there. So I'm not saying Gavin Stone's going to be a guy you rely on come playoff time, Anthony, but I've been encouraged, A, because I know what the pedigree is, and B, I know how hard last year was for him. So when I factor in those 2 things and I see him throughout a performance on the road in Toronto after a travel day like today, it's hard not to be encouraged by that.
Yeah, I agree. And you want to see some of the numbers improve, some of the periphery stuff. But I think what is promising with him and Knack is that, look, these guys aren't being counted on to lead rotation.
Right.
They're being looked at to carry this rotation through 162.
Right.
Help prop us up when we need you, eat some innings, stay competitive. There'll be some clunkers in there. There might be a gem or 2, but we just need you to get us through and keep us competitive. That's sort of what their job is. And because they are prospects, if they happen to hit, that's bonus, at least for right now, at least for this particular 2023 season, 2024 season. And you got to remember what those guys end up being in October. Maybe some long relief, maybe some swingman type of opportunities there. But the hope is, like you said, 2 of those injured pitchers come back. Let's call it Buehler and let's call it Kershaw.
Yeah.
Come back and are able to round out that rotation at the end of September and in October. And then you go in, if you feel good about that and everybody's healthy and everybody's pitching well, that's a hell of a rotation.
Yeah.
And the reason why guys like Buehler, guys like Yamamoto, even guys like Glass now who have an injury history and who have innings limits or they've been capped at a kind of low number. These guys are providing that sort of insurance, that sort of cushion, so that those guys can either get extra rest or maybe you skip a start in the second half of a season here or there. They are really, really important pieces to getting to October. And then if they do a good job doing that, we see where they kind of fit in at that point.
Yeah, and look, I see people in the chat mentioning it. 21 outs. I mean, that's forget all the other numbers, just about, maybe except for earned runs. Gavin Stone got 7 innings, and the offense combined to say, "Hey, Gavin Stone and Nick Ramirez, you're pitching tonight. Everybody else gets the night off."
Yeah.
That's massive. That's massive for a Dodgers bullpen that we know has been overworked and has started to show signs, I would say, of coming back to life. Never get your hopes too high with this group, but 7 innings from Gavin Stone could not have been that. This is best case scenario. And to be honest, that was 94 pitches. Like, if we weren't talking about a young guy that's probably got some sort of innings limit, they could have thrown him back out there if they needed to.
Yeah, for sure. When he went back out for that 6th inning was huge, right?
Yeah, I thought he was done after 6.
I kind of thought that too. Considering, some of the starts that they got in Washington, I thought that he might be done also. But the fact that he was able to go back out and get them another inning, that was big. And I think what you're starting to see now is, some better, longer performances from the starters. And probably not coincidentally, like you said, that bullpen is really starting to now find its footing a little bit more.
Yeah.
They're not perfect yet they won't be perfect at all, but they're getting there. They're getting better. And I think that has to do with them not being overworked the way they were for the first few weeks of the season.
Yeah, I'm with you. Again, thank you to everybody that's joining us live here on the DodgerHeads Live post-game show. Over 1,700 people here on a Friday night. We appreciate you. Again, the Dodgers win 12-2, secure their 5th win in a row behind 19 hits. Let's get a quick recap of how this one played out. We mentioned it, top of the first inning, Ohtani, the headliner here because of all of the drama in the offseason, the false reports about him joining the Blue Jays. Well, guess what? He responds to the boos with a home run in the top of the first, 1-0 Dodgers. And then the second, they threaten, can't break through. But in the third, the floodgates opened. RBI singles from Freddie Freeman and Will Smith, a 3-run home run from Max Muncy, and RBI single from Gavin Lux. It's 7-0 after 3. Will Smith adds a home run to make it 8-0 after 4. Blue Jays get one back in the bottom of the 4th. Dodgers add one more on a Mookie Betts double in the top of the 5th. They add 2 more on a Muncy single and a Paje sacrifice fly to make it 11-1. Guerrero Jr. adds one to in the bottom of the 8th to make it 11-2 before Will Smith adds yet another RBI in the top of the 9th to make it 12-2 for the Dodgers. Again, 19 hits for them, no errors. You look down the box score. Will Smith 4 for 5 with a double and a home run. Max Muncy 3 for 6 with a home run of his own. And then just about everybody else reached twice. Mookie Betts 2 for 3 with a walk. Shohei Ohtani 1 for 4 with a walk. Freddie Freeman 1 for 3 with a walk. Smith 4 hits. Muncy 3 hits. Teoscar Hernandez 2 for 3. Outman 1 for 4 with a walk. Pajes 2 for 4. Lux 2 for 5. I mean, so literally every single guy that started this game, Anthony, every single one of them reached base twice. That's insane. That is an insane statistic for the Dodgers offense.
Yeah. I think what's most impressive to me, like, this can happen. We knew this coming into the season. They are this good that this can happen. And we're going to get a game like this probably once every dozen or so. Yeah. And then, them scoring double digits is going to be, a lot more often than that probably. What's most impressive, though, during these 5 games is the pitching staff has held the opposition to 6 runs.
Yeah. 6 runs in their last 5, I believe, right?
Yeah, I think during this winning streak, they've only given up 6 runs. That is incredible.
The reason I know
a lot of 5-game winning streaks if you hold teams to 6 runs over 5 games.
Totally. No, the reason I know that is because if anybody watched the preview show, I want to preface this with we went 2 for 3 on our picks today. Okay, so our bets went 2 for 3. We're plus money, but the one that Daniel was giving me crap for was I was like, maybe consider the under in this game because the Blue Jays had gone under 9 total runs in all but one of their last 6 games, with the 6th being 9 exactly. The Dodgers had only allowed 4 runs in their previous 4. And so I was half right. I was like, look, the Blue Jays aren't going to score. The Dodgers aren't going to let them score. So under 9, you maybe consider it. That one didn't look good. We did give Bassett under 5.5 Ks. That was plus 110. That one cashed because he got chased. We also gave Gavin Stone over 1.5 walks. Sadly, that one hit, but it didn't matter. So 2 walks for him. So 2 for 3 on the picks is what we got. I see somebody ask what hoodie is Jeff wearing. I want one. Shout out to Foco. They were given this was something that they sent us. So I'm not sure I've seen it lately, but Foco sent this. We also homage, Homage. How do you pronounce that word? Is it homage? Is it homage? What's your take on the H in a word like that, Anthony?
I say homage.
Homage. Okay. Homage, however you would like to pronounce it. They've got some amazing Dodgers gear. They've partnered with us on a couple things. So make sure you check that stuff out as well. On the pitching side, we mentioned it. Gavin Stone, 7 innings, 2 hits, 1 earned, 2 walks, 2 strikeouts for him on 94 pitches. And then Nick Ramirez got mop-up duty, 2 innings, 3 hits, 1 earned, 2 walks, and 1 strikeout for him. Let's get to one more. I see some people debating whether or not the H belongs. The Dodger Blue account says homage, so they got the AWW. So
Dodger
no
Blue
H is the consensus.
Dodger Blue account's always right, dude.
There we go. Well, it depends. I need to find out if Blake or Matt.
When you pronounce the H, it sounds like hominy, and then I think of menudo, and then I'm ready to end this live stream to go eat.
There we go.
Do you eat menudo?
I have not. I know I've seen it. I've seen it on the menu, but I've not ordered it. Is it a must?
I'm a fan. Okay. I know it's a hit and miss thing for a lot of people. You got to try it. You should try it.
Okay.
Do you eat like when you get tacos or something like that? Do you ever order like tripas?
I do not. I steer clear.
Yeah, I kind of stay. I tend to steer clear of that too. I was gonna say if you do like that, like you're gonna have no problem with menudo.
Okay. Yeah, I mean, the thing is that the center of the fairway at taco places is just it's crying out to me. It's like there's no need to experiment too much when you've got pastor, pollo, asada. It's just all chorizo, whatever you want. It's just
Sure,
sitting there. So
sure.
there we go.
Okay, so the chat is saying that pozole is better than menudo, which I tend to agree with.
Okay.
That wasn't the debate, but if we're making it the debate, I agree with those people who are saying. Now, you know, pozole for me, like I can do whenever. The day after like a 3 a.m. kind of all-nighter, menudo hits.
Okay. There you go. There you go. Take it from his mouth. We'll ask Blake what he thinks next time. I'm sure Blake's a big fan of both of those things. Let's get to one other storyline here that's worth mentioning. Unfortunately, not positive news, not related to today's game, but we did get an update on Brusdar Graterol recently, and the report was not a positive one. He has been shut down from his throwing progression. There's no new injury or setback, but basically his arm still not feeling great, not bouncing back as well as the team had hoped. And so Fabian Ardaya reporting that he's been shut down from the throwing progression, according to Dave Roberts. It's going to be a longer process, it seems, for a Dodgers bullpen that at one point seemed like it was a mess, which maybe now is the best time to get this news, Anthony, because we don't all hate the Dodgers bullpen as much as we probably did a week ago. But
Yeah.
for a guy in Graterol that you're hoping to be in that high leverage role, I'm just very hopeful. And I don't mean hopeful as in optimistic. I am hoping very hard that this is not the type of injury that 2 or 3 weeks from now we get a Graterol had surgery on body part, fill in the blank.
Yeah, kind of feels ominous.
Yeah.
Ominous.
There you go. There you go.
No, we talked about this when it first happened, when it went from a hip to a shoulder, and we were both kind of skeptical about because they were like, oh, it's a quick thing, and it didn't sound like that. You don't go from a hip to a shoulder and then be like, oh yeah, he'll be no problem, he'll be back right away. This is not good. Not aside from just him being shut down and the prospects of him actually pitching this season, not good. This is not good for this roster. He was being counted on as being a high leverage, big inning, big situation kind of arm for them out of that bullpen, and to lose him and for him to have not even thrown a ball yet, that's not great, because with him out, with Trinan still not being out, and then we'll kind of see how these guys come back. One, it probably means if May does come back, he might have to slide into the bullpen, which probably makes the most sense anyway. But still, I think what this does is it forces them to really probably have to get aggressive in the bullpen market, in the reliever market. Probably something they didn't want to have to do. But if Trinan isn't what he was before he got hurt and you don't get Graterol, you kind of have to go after somebody like that, like a back end type of arm that is going to have a lot of probably suitors, and it means the price tag is going to be high. But I think that's kind of where this road starts to lead now if he's not going to be able to pitch.
Yeah, some good news for the Dodgers. Here's the last 14 days coming into today. It's hilarious because you look at the guys who have ERAs of 0 over that stretch. Alex Vesia, 6 2/3, no earned runs. Evan Phillips, 5 innings, no earned runs. Michael Grove, 5 innings, no earned runs. Nick Ramirez had 5 innings, no earned runs prior to tonight's outing. Ricky Vanasco, 2 innings, no earned runs. Yarbrough, who I guess is technically a reliever, but 9 1/3 with a 3.86 ERA. Joe Kelly, Ryan Brazier, Daniel Hudson have not been great. But even just to see Phillips as dominant as he has been, to see Vesia, Vesia, 12.15 strikeouts per 9 over his last 6 2/3. Michael Grove, 14.4 strikeouts per 9 over his last 5. These are guys who have been dominant of late. You mix in, like I said, Phillips. So it's nice for the Dodgers to be getting some production from a guy like Vesia, who I've held on hope for. Michael Grove, everybody who follows this show knows, A, I'm biased, and B, I'm feeling slightly vindicated about the performance he's had over his last 7 or 8 innings. But Joe Kelly has been tough to watch. Ryan Brazier, equally tough to watch, maybe tougher to watch. Daniel Hudson, even a guy at the beginning of the season, we're like, all right, we got Phillips and Hudson. Who else? Daniel Hudson has struggled lately. And so Blake Trinan is on a rehab assignment, but not expected back for a couple of weeks. JP Fireeisen couldn't cut it at the major league level, got sent back down to sort of build himself back up after being away from the game for a year. And so you just go down this list, and I would say there are more positives in the bullpen now than there were maybe a week ago, Anthony. But again, all of this just seems to sort of bold, underline, italics the need that the Dodgers have in the bullpen for, please, Ryan Brazier, figure it out. Daniel Hudson, figure it out. Joe Kelly, figure it out. Or Brusdar Graterol's shoulder, figure it out.
Yeah. The injury luck in the bullpen this early has been just crushing. And you're having to rely on guys for bigger loads and higher leverage than you expected. And they're having to rely on guys who they probably figured, if all things go well, wouldn't even be in the big leagues.
Yeah.
And now they're playing critical roles for this club. It's a good thing that it's early still. We're not even out of the first calendar month. I know you and I, the last few Fridays, have had to talk people off of ledges and keep reminding everybody of that. But it's easier to do it when a winning streak is happening. But you feel like if you continue to have to rely on these unproven guys, at some point you have a burst.
Yeah.
And you don't want to have to get to that point. You want to at least be able to sort of space out that high leverage situations for some of these guys and not have to throw them straight into the fire. But this is where we are. That's why starting to get a little more length out of the rotation is going to be critical. And hopefully now, as these guys enter starts, 5, 6, 7, 8, that length is something that they can start to deliver, where instead of pitching into the 5th and you're hoping for a 6th, you're starting to hope for 7th innings now. And with guys like Glasnow and Yamamoto, maybe even 8th innings if they're efficient. So that's going to be huge. I think this rotation is going to end up being a bigger help for the bullpen than probably any arm that might come out of injury or trade, at least for the near future.
Yeah. And look, if some of these starting pitchers start to get healthy, if Walker Buehler is able to come back, if you get anything out of a bunch of the other names we've mentioned, it's possible that a guy like Stone or a guy like Knack, if they can prove themselves to be effective, then maybe you can convert those guys and hope that you find some effectiveness there. Kyle Hurt is a guy down at the minor league level that I think has the potential to be a real weapon, that they're probably wanting to slow him down a little bit as an option. But so I think there are pieces there, but again, stay tuned on Graterol news because that's going to be a big one. We got another super chat here from Laura, longtime friend, and she speaks for a lot of people. Not us, Anthony, not you and me. But she says, I owe the universe an apology for my overreaction on the Dodgers slump last week. LOL. Dodgers have won 5 in a row. I believe they're back on pace for, 199, 100 wins, something like that. It is the Nationals that they swept. To be fair, 3 of the 5 wins came against one of the worst teams in the league, maybe the worst team in the National League at the very least. But I would say this. I always try and be, what's that?
So what?
Yeah. I always temper things on, just as I was telling people, don't overreact to a few losses, to a bad homestand. Don't we haven't figured everything out because we won 5 in a row either. It's still April. Yeah. It's not May. It's not June. It's not July. It's not August. But yes, the Dodgers are going to be fine. There's going to be more 5-game winning streaks than there are going to be 3 and 6 homestands. That's for sure. And so, Laura, I appreciate the humility, but yes, the Dodgers are going to be fine. Let's get to some questions here, folks. If you've got them, start throwing those in the chat. We've got about 15 minutes left to start answering those. If you want more clarification on Anthony's food opinions, you can ask that. If you got an NFL draft question, I've been trying to stay dialed in. The Raiders made their 3rd pick right before we hopped on. So the Raiders haven't destroyed me this week in the NFL draft, which is a new thing for me to like the first 2 picks that the Raiders have made. And so
it's a new thing for most Raider fans.
All Raider fans. Look, let's be honest. All Raiders fans. Let's see. Here's a good question. Rod, Mookie running more this season. How many steals does he end up with? I haven't paid attention. I know he had a steal tonight, right? Because he got into scoring position, I think, for one of those, for one of the runs. Let's see. I
He might
haven't
be
paid
like 4 for 4, something like that.
Say that again.
4 for 4, I think he is this season.
On the season.
Yeah.
This has got him at 6,
6,
according to
okay.
Baseball Reference, and I'm not sure if that's including tonight or not. So 6 or 7
Okay, yeah.
through 27 games. So I mean, are we talking a 30-30 season in the cards for Mookie Betts? His career high is 30 exactly way back in 2018. That
Yeah.
was the year he won the MVP.
It could be. It could be. He is obviously being more aggressive in that way. In a situation where, and maybe this is part of it, maybe it was a situation where everyone assumed Mookie's not going to, he's going to stop running. He's got this
Yeah.
long contract that he's got to stay healthy for. He's got Ohtani, Freeman, and Smith hitting behind him. Why would you run? And maybe he's taking advantage of thinking that opposing pitchers and catchers have that mindset.
Yeah.
And he's kind of surprising them. I'm surprised that he's running this much this early for sure.
Yeah.
Again, with arguably the second best hitter in the league behind him, because right now Mookie's the best hitter in the league.
I like that. I like that.
But yeah, he is certainly more aggressive right now. I would love to see a 30-30 season for Mookie Betts. He's my favorite player. He's been my favorite player for a long time. He was my undercover favorite player before he got to the Dodgers. I would never say that because the Dodgers lost to Boston in the World Series. But I was super happy when they traded for him and signed him to that deal. So if he can bring an MVP to this is how I think about things long term. I want him to win an MVP and another World Series with the Dodgers, right? At least one of each, because I want an LA on his plaque in Cooperstown when he gets there.
Yeah. I think we're safe. I think we're safe just based on it's like the Beltre thing. We had Beltre at the beginning. He ends up going in where he retires, excuse me. But yeah, I'm surprised he's running as much. I joked about Ohtani maybe getting to 40 steals because he didn't have to worry about pitching. It's just hard to justify running when Ohtani, Freddie Freeman, Will Smith are batting behind you because you can't be running into outs. I guess the flip side is the pitcher is so distracted by the guy at the plate that maybe he's not as dialed in on the base paths, or maybe you just want to plant that seed in his head. And so I'll say 30. Do you want to throw a number at this? You think you want to take the over or the under on 30 stolen bases for Mookie?
Over.
Okay, there you go. Maybe not a big over. It doesn't sound like for Anthony.
No. I wanted the over under to be 29.5.
Okay. David, small sample size. What's both of your opinions on Andy Pages so far? A couple more hits I mentioned for Pages tonight. 286 batting average, 316 on base, and a 543 slugging percentage for Pages. Felt like there was a little bit of a dip there after maybe the first hit, but you look at the slash line, he has bounced back and then some.
Yeah, the big leagues come at you fast, right?
Yeah.
Like, he was ripping in OKC, and then they bring him up and he gets the hit, and then just kind of, I think it blasts you in the face a little bit, and then you kind of, okay, take a step back. I know what this is now. Let's get going. He has had, speaking of really good plate appearances, he has had some great at-bats, even ones that he hasn't reached on. He's hit some hard outs. I think he had another one tonight, maybe, if I remember correctly. There were so many plate appearances from the Dodgers. But man, he's impressive. He hits the ball to all fields. I think Eric Karros kind of referenced that tonight. That to me is one of the more impressive things. That was what was impressive about Will Smith too when he came up and he was a little younger, was their ability to hit the ball the other way and hit the ball the other way hard. He has that. And I think maybe a little more than Will Smith, he has more power the other way. I think you're going to start to see him hit some center field and right field home runs and doubles. I've been really, really impressed. I was a little skeptical about how that tear early on in the minors would translate to the big leagues. Obviously, he's not doing that. But I've been really impressed. I think, there's a couple things that I think really play into this a bit is he's gotten comfortable quickly.
Yeah.
And I think a big reason for that is he knows that he's not necessarily battling for at-bats right now. They told him when he came up, you're going to have this runway. We keep hearing that word with him. He's got a big runway. And when you have that and you know that an 0 for 4 night isn't going to sit you for the next 2 nights, that means you can be comfortable and you can play a little freer and you can swing a little freer. And all of a sudden you're not trying to, hit every single thing you see hard. You can be a little more patient. I think all of that really plays into the fact that he feels like he belongs here.
Yeah.
And we're starting to see, not starting to, we've been seeing that he's sort of got that mentality, and he looks like he's a big leaguer, and he looks like he's a big leaguer to stay. If he
Yeah.
goes back down, I'd be surprised, because even though he might not hit at this clip for, the entire season, I think he's going to be pretty good. This is a guy who a lot of people thought should have been with the big league club on opening day. I'm going to call it now. I don't think he goes back down.
Wow. Yeah, I mean, the biggest question is going to be what they do then with Jason Hayward when Hayward returns. Not that they owe Jason Hayward like a starting spot
Right.
necessarily. They are paying him not nothing, but it's just a matter of, do they keep Pages up if he's not playing every day or really, really close to every day? So a lot of that, I think, depends on what is James Outman's offensive profile looking like at that point. What do they want to do with Chris Taylor? Those kinds of decisions. You mentioned just real quick on the exit velocity, Pages had a 104-mile-an-hour line out today, and he also had the third hardest hit ball, 108-mile-an-hour single. So 2 balls over 103.5 miles an hour. Pretty wild stuff there. GI, a quick one here. Over or under 3 runs for the Dodgers tomorrow against Kikuchi, and should this be a guy who is on the radar at the deadline? Kikuchi's been good this year. 5 starts. His last 3, all 6 innings, has allowed 7 runs across those 5 starts. So the over-under of 3 is a tricky one, because he's gone 2-3 once and under every single time. That said, I mean, I'm not going to take the under on earned runs allowed for any pitcher against the Dodgers lineup, especially not when guys are seeing the ball as big as it is right now. So I'll take the over. I don't know enough about him to sort of have a strong opinion about should he be on the radar at the trade deadline. A lot of that depends on Toronto's a team that's going to want to be competitive. How competitive they are, I think, plays a big part in that. Anthony, real quick, any thoughts on Kikuchi or his performance tomorrow?
Yeah, I take the over, obviously. I don't know enough about his peripherals to know sort of what the underlying numbers say about him, what the advanced stats say. Not a guy I've done a ton of research on for that reason, but he has been solid for them, and I'm with you. The Blue Jays are going to play this thing out until they can't anymore, and that might, with the expanded playoff spots, this might be a team that ends up not being a seller. So I'm sure the Dodgers have them on their whiteboard. If anything serious happens, that'll be up to Toronto, most likely, because I'm sure the Dodgers are going to check in on everybody. As a team who has World Series aspirations, but as of right now, probably not their top target, or probably not even a top 3 target as of now.
Yeah, last year, just looking real quick, pitching run value on Savant, he was like 60th percentile. He's been incredible this year, 95th percentile. All the stuff is dark red. So we'll see how that continues. Hopefully that gets a little more blue after tomorrow's start. TQT asked a question we kind of just touched on. What does the outfield look like once Hayward returns? Hard to fit all those guys on the bench. And again, it gets complicated because Pages especially, I think, is somebody that you want to see regular at bats for. Sure. And so, they've clearly got an approach with Hayward, with Outman, that he's not platooning, but he's in the most platoon looking situation ever to not be considered a platoon by Dave Roberts. So the short version is, I don't know. Teoscar's going to play every day. I think Outman's here to stay for a bit. They can't, but Hayward, Kike, and Taylor, you can't send any of those guys down. So I think that's where it gets tricky, Anthony.
You play platoons because you think it gives you the best overall profile at that position, because you don't think one guy can handle it by himself because of splits or whatever the case may be. So I think, look, if Pages continues to hit the way he has, and he's a pretty good defensive outfielder, I think what ends up happening is for the most part your outfield. It's Outman, Hernandez, and Pages. And then I think because this window is now, right? And so I don't think they mince. I don't think they worry about hurting Jason Hayward's feelings when he comes back. They say, look, you're going to get spot starts here or there. You're going to get pitch hit appearances here or there. This guy has proven that he belongs out there every single day. He can hit
Yeah.
both hands. And I think Hayward understands that.
Yeah.
I don't think he didn't re-sign to pad his, Hall of Fame resume or anything like
Right.
that. He signed with the Dodgers to win.
Yeah.
And if that's what his role ends up becoming, that's what it ends up becoming. He is not a guy that you tell Pages, well, we got to send you down because Hayward's back and he needs to get at bats, and we don't want you sitting and not hitting, not taking at bats. So we're going to send you down. That's not a thing that's going to happen with him.
Yeah, it is worth pointing out, and not this isn't disparaging Pages. Hayward's really good defensively in right field.
Absolutely.
And so I think there's going to be some value there. If you wanted to make a case for Hayward, it would be the platoon splits plus just reliable defensive sort of fit out there.
And I think they may luck into something like with Chase Utley, where Pages is the young guy, Hayward is the veteran who has been through it all, seen it all. And he's the guy who sort of ends up mentoring him and mentoring some of the other younger outfielders, Outman included. I think that was another reason the Dodgers really did make an effort to bring Hayward back, aside from the production that he gave him, was that kind of thing. They really value that. They value that sort of clubhouse culture. We've seen them sign guys to probably more money than any other team would offer them because they value that part of what they bring.
Yep, absolutely. We'll try and do a couple of these rapid fire to get through as many as we can. 30 seconds or less, Anthony. Thoughts on Yamamoto's performance yesterday?
He's the guy that they told us he was going to be. His command is getting sharper. And we said it. I think we said it, Jeff. When he's able to start commanding the ball better, you're really going to start to see what this guy can do. We're seeing it.
Yeah. And the command, Daniel and I mentioned, the command is not he was throwing balls and now he's throwing strikes. He was throwing pitches that were right in the middle of the zone that are now starting to find the edges.
And we said he had to throw less strikes.
Totally. Noisy Ninja, thoughts on Mason Miller? Knock on wood, that velocity, all the injuries piling up, would still like the Dodgers to go after him. This guy's on my fantasy team. He's freaking nasty. The A's closer, if you haven't seen him. Well, we do have to be careful and see if the A's are going to be Oh, no, the A's aren't going to be competitive this year. Maybe they'll want to. No, they're not going to want to re-sign him either. So who knows? Who knows? Maybe the Dodgers make it run. Do you want to pay that much for any relief pitcher? I think would be the question, especially with throwing 102 and what that seems to be doing to everybody's elbow right now. Seems to be something to keep an eye on. TQT, the pen seems to be lacking, especially with Brewstar hurt. Hard to rely on Trinan to be a high leverage arm after 2 years off. How do they improve it? We mentioned this a little bit, Anthony. There are guys, some internal options, starters, they could become relievers. I mean, are you confident in let me ask, I'll reframe the question and narrow it a little bit. Joe Kelly, Ryan Brazier, Daniel Hudson. Are there two guys that they'll be able to trust in that group of three people, do you think?
I don't.
Okay.
Not right now. Joe Kelly's always going to be Joe Kelly, and he's going to have those stretches where he's lights out, and he's going to have stretches where he walks 900 guys in an appearance. And so, and Dave Roberts leaves him in too long to walk 900 guys.
Yeah.
So no, I'm not super confident there. I think that they are going to be looking, especially like we mentioned earlier, especially if Brewster Gatterall isn't going to be back in a timely manner, then they're going to have to start looking outside the organization and hoping that some of the guys who may not be quite good enough for the rotation right now can just kind of slot in for the time being into the bullpen.
Yeah, I'm with you. Team Ruiz, when is Dave Roberts going to be fired? Team Ruiz, I have bad news for you, my friend. 5-game winning streak for the Dodgers, and we're asking when the manager is going to get fired. You got to love Dodger fans here, Anthony.
Yeah. Hey, it's a marquee LA team thing right now, asking those questions.
Noisy Ninja, who did it better, Neo in The Matrix or Yamamoto saving his own life? Holy crap, Anthony. What was it, 105 miles an hour coming right back at him, and he got his hand up?
105, yeah.
It's insane. I texted a friend, my greatest fear watching Dodger games is that Ohtani's going to hit a ball 116 miles an hour right back at the pitcher at some point. That I would be the most terrified. To be a pitching against Ohtani, forget giving up a home run. The number one most terrifying thing would be that line drive coming right back at me.
The number one objective in the pitcher meetings coming into a Dodger series is to stay alive.
Yeah, it's like, hey, so if I throw the ball chest high, he can't hit it line drive right back at me, right? It's going in the air. We'll take our chances with that. Crazy. Adams asked this one a couple times. Freddie Freeman, when's the next home run coming? Does he get it on this road trip, Anthony?
Yes, let's say yes. I'm going to say yes. He's hitting the ball a lot harder and he's squaring it up a lot more. Also with Freddie, his home runs seem to come in batches.
Yeah.
Right? Like it's not like he's, every 25 at bats he hits one. It's like he goes 75 without one, and then the next 25 he hits like 4.
Yeah. He's in the 94th percentile for batting run value on StatCast right now, 97th percentile for sweet spot percentage. So I know the home runs aren't there, just one. Will Smith, same thing. Will Smith's home run today, only his second, but these guys are barreling up.
They are hitting the ball.
Everything. Hitting lots of line drives. And
you know what? If he breaks the record and he hits 65 doubles, I'm fine with that too.
Yeah, whatever it takes. So, well, that'll do it, folks. Almost 1,900 people in here. We greatly appreciate you all joining us again on a Friday night here, Dodger Heads Live post-game show with Anthony Witrado and Jeff Spiegel. I do want to plug a couple of things first. If you missed it, we made an announcement over on our YouTube page today. We've got a new partnership and a new sponsorship with So Rare. This is a fantasy sports-esque game for baseball fans that you will want to see. It's a new partnership. It's basically a game where you get to build a team as if you were the owner and then compete as if you were the GM. You build a collection of digital player cards, and then you assemble those cards into lineups. You compete in weekend-long and week-long competitions. It is free to play. You can also, once you are in, you can buy cards, you can sell cards, you can trade cards, and you can sort of build your team, shape your team as you see fit. You build 7-person teams. So when you get in there, like myself, Blake Williams, we just started on this app. You get 10 players for free. You get 120 points you can divvy up to sort of pick your players. And then you take those 10 and you build 7-player lineups. You enter competitions. There are prizes, obviously some more digital cards. There are cash prizes. There are experiences. There are autographs, memorabilia, all that kind of stuff. So start for free. We'll have more information as far as how we can join and compete with us here at Dodger Blue. But check out the link in the description of this video to get more information. Again, it is called So Rare. Click the link, join through our link. We'd greatly appreciate that. Again, free to start, free to play, and we'll all sort of learn this thing together. But it's a pretty cool setup. The digital cards, you get to keep your cards. So you pick some players. If you get Mookie Betts, you get Mookie Betts indefinitely. And then there's different levels of cards, all sorts of stuff. So check out So Rare. Again, link in the bio below. And also check out, we're partnered with a couple NFL sites, Raiders Newswire, Rams Newswire. Make sure to check that stuff out. NFL draft happening. I've been writing for Raiders Newswire this week. I had a mock draft beforehand, a first round recap. I'm going to have a day 2 recap. As soon as we finish here, I'm getting right back to work and writing a round 2 and round 3 recap. Daniel Starkin does some stuff. Matt Peralta over at Rams Newswire. So familiar names and faces. So make sure you check out those websites as well. But thank you so much, everyone, for joining us here on Dodger Heads live post-game show presented by DodgerBlue.com. Again, Anthony, thank you so much for joining us. We got the mojo back, 5 wins in a row. Hopefully, when we're back here a week from now, maybe we're talking about a 12-game winning streak.
Let's do it. I'm with it.
There we go. Well, that's Anthony. You can check him out at Witrado on social media. You can check out Dodger Blue 1958. And, of course, please subscribe, ring the notification bell here as well. Dodgers win 12-2, 19 hits. Gavin Stone throws a gem. Ohtani, Smith, and Muncy all hit home runs. Great night to be a Dodgers fans, folks. So enjoy the rest of it. And as always, go Dodgers.